If I had to pick one rock band that has written the most catchy and accessible songs in the genre, it would go to Linkin Park. They are for sure in one of my top three bands of all time, and that's due to their incredible writing skills, diversity in their discography, and absolutely amazing vocals of Chester Bennington, who's my favourite vocalist of all time. Rest in peace, the legend. His talent was truly one in a million. Anyway, in this episode, I will be ranking all their albums. Due to their discography being quite short, I will also be adding the remix albums Reanimation and Recharged, as well as the Hybrid Theory EP. Now let's get into it. Yeah, this kind of sucks. I hate to disrespect one of my favourite bands, but I think this album is terrible, and I don't see anyone who disagree. This album makes living things look like a god's gift to the world, as these remixes are just not good at all. Not much to say about this album really, other than it's not good and it's not memorable. If you can't tell, I'm really not a fan of remix albums. Reanimation is definitely an improvement from Recharged, but it still isn't great in my opinion. However, at least this album still has a couple of decent ones. I think the Pushing Me Away remix is solid, with the Live in Texas version being even better. If you do like this album, fair to you, but personally, it just isn't my thing. Luckily, every album ahead of this I have much better things to say about. In eighth place, I have the band's final album, One More Light. Despite being one of the lowest of their main albums, I still like this album. I think they did a pretty good job of exploring pop, a genre they hadn't delved in before. This album also stands out due to the emotion in the music, as this album was released just a few months before Chester Bennington's death. This emotion can be heard on almost every song on the album. My personal favourite songs are the title track, Sorry for Now, and Nobody Can Save Me. However, my main problem is the inconsistency in song quality. Whilst you have good songs like I've just mentioned, you also have absolutely awful songs like Good Goodbye and my personal least favourite Linkin Park song, Halfway Right. This style of music just heavily restricts the band members, as Chester can't do his heavy vocals, Joe can't do his DJ scratching, and Brad can't do some of his amazing riffing. Oh yeah, and those fucking Alvin and the Chipmunk noises. Overall, I do think this album got far too much hate, and especially sad knowing what happened to Chester, but I must rank it here in eighth. For a very early release in the band's career, I think this EP is very good. Compared to their demo tape Zero released in 1997, this is a huge improvement in both production and skill, as Chester Bennington's vocals are without doubt miles better than Mark Wakefield's. My only problem with this EP is songs like Step Up and High Voltage feel very dated and a bit cringe to be brutally honest. However, the other songs in this EP are very good, with and One and Part of Me being two of my personal favourite Linkin Park songs. I don't really have anything bad to say about this EP. Maybe if there was more songs on it from that era, such as Blue and So Far Away, I'd rank it higher, but due to only being an EP, I will leave it here in seventh. I have a very hard time ranking the next three albums on the list, as I think they are all brilliant and on a similar level for me. But in sixth, I have The Hunting Party from 2014. I think this album showcases some of the best guitar playing and drumming in their discography, with A Line in the Sand being the best example of that, which is also my personal favourite on the album. Final Masquerade and Rebellion are both incredible songs also, with the latter featuring Darren Malakian, the main songwriter from my other favourite band in nu metal, System of a Down. However, I think the main thing keeping this album below the next two for me is on paper it is Linkin Park's least interesting album. The band has always been very experimental, venturing into everything from nu metal to pop to electronic, and then you have this album, which is just a plain old rock album. I also think some of the songs are slightly repetitive and sound similar, such as Guilty All the Same, which is possibly my biggest Linkin Park take as everyone loves this song. Overall, I think The Hunting Party is a solid album, but just falls short of the next five albums due to being slightly plain. Opening the top five, we have the electronic album Living Things. This is, in my opinion, the band's vibes album, as all the songs are very high energy and very enjoyable. I think this album feels a lot like electronic version of Meteora as it replaces guitar with keyboards and synthesizers. I think this album has some of the best productions in the band's catalogue and is very well made. For me, the best songs are In My Remains and Powerless as they capture the album's vibe and electronic music perfectly. I'll Be Gone and Castle of Glass are also incredible songs, with the latter probably having the best music video in the band's career. However, my only problem is this album has some songs which are just really unnecessary. Lies, Greed, Misery is just okay, Skin to Bone is boring, and Until It Breaks is one of the worst songs in their discography, as it feels like multiple mediocre demos stitched together. Bang Bang Little Monkey Man. Overall, I really like this album, and it is really close to the next album, but just falls short. In my opinion, this is Linkin Park's most well-written album and most experimental album. On this album, the band had done something they'd never done before and wrote a concept album. The thing behind this album is nuclear war, and I think considering they had never done this before is something really well written. I think this album also has their most unique songs, with Blackout for me being absolutely incredible and the best on the album, as it is just pure chaos with the last few minutes being absolutely perfect. Other amazing songs include Iridescent, Burning in the Skies, and of course Waiting for the End. My only issue with this album is there are way too many interludes and transition tracks. I get it's a concept album and it could use some, but when 7 out of 15 songs are interludes in a 48-minute long album, it just feels extremely unnecessary. And compared to some of the greatest concept albums of all time, such as The Wall by Pink Floyd and American Idiot by Green Day, which don't feel impacted by it at all or have any interludes at all, it slightly spoils the listen. To summarize, I think In a Thousand Suns is a solid album, but just falls short of the top three for me. Minutes to Midnight is a very special album to me as I actually grew up listening to this one and it was my first Linkin Park album I ever heard. It was also the first album they changed styles of music on as they moved away from nu metal to a more alternative rock sound with some metal tracks in there such as Given Up and more No More Sorrow. It also has some slightly more chilled out songs like Leave Out All the Rest, my favourite on the album, The Little Things Give You Away, and Shadow of the Day. I also think this album, along with Meteora, is Chester's best vocals, with Given Up being simply impossible to sing for 99% of singers with its absolutely crazy 17 long second scream. The two bonus tracks released in 2022 are also very good, and I'd highly recommend checking them out if you haven't. My only issue with this album is there are a few short songs that don't feel needed, like Hands Held High and In Between, but that doesn't hinder the greatness of this album as it is fully stacked with bangers. I personally am very excited for this album's 20th anniversary in 2027 as they released a breakdown video of QWERTY earlier this year and it revealed that there was over 120 demos for this album, which I am very excited to hear if they do release a special edition. However, it sits in third as the two remaining albums are simply some of the all-time greatest. As I said before, Meteora to me is one of the greatest albums of all time and one of my personal favourites. Everything on this album is perfect, from Chester's amazing vocals on songs like From the Inside, to Mike's amazing rapping on Hit the Floor, to Brad's top class riffing on Lying From You. This album is also full out of 10 of 10 songs, with Somewhere I Belong being the song that got me into the band, From the Inside having the best vocals ever, Figure oh 09 having that amazing chorus and bridge, and Breaking the Habit being one of the most well written songs ever. This album features also some of the best production of all time and is up there with the likes of the Black Album by Metallica. Side note, I have a Metallica rank which you should definitely go check out after this if you like it. Overall, this album is perfect and features some of the best and most iconic songs in rock. However, number one is simply something else. Hybrid Theory is an absolute masterpiece and is in my top three favourite albums of all time, as every single song is top tier. From the opening seconds of Paper Cut to the closer Pushing Me Away, this album does not disappoint and is one of the greatest listens of all time. This album, like every other Linkin Park album, also features some of the best vocals of all time. It also, in my opinion, features Brad's best guitar on songs like One Step Closer and By Myself, proving that. As I mentioned in my Bring Me the Horizon video, I also think this is the most catchy album in the whole genre of rock. There are so many incredible songs on here, but if I had to decide on the top three, it would be Crawling, Pushing Me Away, and Forgotten. But songs like By Myself, One Step Closer, and Runaway are also up there with the best for me. To summarise, Hybrid Theory is one of my favourite albums of all time and is the second highest sold metal album for a reason. Usually I would end the video here, but there is two more albums that I must talk about, as not many people listen to them despite them being Linkin Park's best works by miles. They are full of top tier songs, with both being over 4 hours long. I'm of course talking about the 20th anniversary editions of Hybrid Theory and Meteora. Starting off with Hybrid Theory, it is 80 songs long. It contains the main album, Reanimation, of the Hybrid Theory EP, many demos, live recordings, and three unheard songs, Pictureboard, She Couldn't, and Could Have Been. This this release seems to have gone completely under the radar, as I've never seen many people outside hardcore Linkin Park fans talk about it, and I have no idea why. This album contains some of their best songs. Pictureboard is among my top 10 Linkin Park songs of all time, as it has very good drumming and an even better chorus and bridge. Demos Blue Slip and So Far Away are also incredible and rival some of their best, most well produced songs. Now on to Meteora 20, which is an 89 song long album and includes the main album, many live recordings, such as my favourite Linkin Park concert live in Texas, demos, and seven unheard songs: Lost, Fighting Myself, More the Victim, Massive, Healing Foot, West Side, and Resolution. And where Hybrid Theory 20 presents top tier demos, Meteora 20 presents some of the best Linkin Park songs through the unheard songs. I am absolutely shocked that these songs were dropped from the album, as they are simply incredible. Resolution is the perfect album closer and actually my personal favourite Linkin Park song due to its completely unique vibe. More the Victim is the perfect song that, if released, I have no doubt would have been a huge hit for them, as it brings similar vibes to In the End. And Massive presents some of Mike Shinoda's best vocals, as he sings it very well and entirely on his own. Every other song on this album is also amazing and needs to be included on Meteora. To summarise, I think Hybrid Theory and Meteora 20 are absolutely incredible, and if the songs on here were on main albums, I would possibly have them as my favourite albums of all time. And that is the end. If you enjoyed this video, please consider supporting the channel as we have more content coming soon and I'm sure you'd enjoy it. Also, we have a Discord server now, so if you want to talk to us or meet some cool new people, I recommend joining. I'll leave the link in the description. Anyway, thank you for watching. See you in the next one.